You know what's confusing? Army ranks. You see someone walking around with little shapes on their uniform and you're supposed to know whether to salute them, call them sir, or just nod awkwardly and keep walking. Well, buckle up because today we're breaking down every single Army rank so you never have to play that guessing game again. Let's be real. If you've ever watched a military movie and had no idea who was in charge, you're not alone. The military has more ranks than a gas station has energy drink options, and it's about time someone explained the system in a way that doesn't make your brain hurt. Whether you're a civilian contractor trying not to embarrass yourself, a military spouse who wants to know what those chevrons on your partner's uniform actually mean, or just someone who's curious about how this whole hierarchy works, this is for you. Here's the thing that nobody tells you up front. The Army has 3 totally different rank systems running at the same time. We've got enlisted ranks, warrant officers, and commissioned officers. It's like having 3 different ladders all leaning against the same building. And just to keep things spicy, they all use completely different insignia. Because why make anything simple when you can make it complicated? Let's start at the very bottom with the enlisted ranks. These are the folks who actually do most of the work while the officers get most of the glory. Kind of like interns, but with significantly better benefits and the occasional tank. Private E1. This is where everyone starts. Rock bottom, the ground floor, the I literally just got here rank. A private wears exactly 0 insignia, nothing, not a zilch. Their uniform is as naked as the day it was issued. It's the military's way of saying, you haven't earned anything yet, buddy. You call them private, and they're probably still figuring out which end of the rifle to point at the enemy. No judgment, we all start somewhere. Private E2. Now we're moving up to Private Second Class, or PV2 if you're into abbreviations. These folks have been around for about 6 months and have finally earned their first piece of flair, one single chevron. It's an upside down V, like a very sad bird in flight. This is the military equivalent of getting a gold star in kindergarten. Congratulations, you didn't quit yet. Private First Class E3. Here we've got the PFC, rocking 1 chevron and 1 rocker underneath it. A rocker is that curved line that looks like a smile, which is appropriate because these soldiers are probably smiling. They're no longer the lowest of the low. They've got a whole year under their belt. They're basically veterans in their own minds. Here's where things get interesting. Specialist and Corporal E4. Both of these ranks are at the same pay grade, E4, but they're completely different animals. A specialist wears this unique insignia with an eagle on it, kind of like they rated the presidential seal. They're technical experts focused on their specific job. They can manage lower ranked soldiers, but here's the kicker. They're not non-commissioned officers. They don't have that command authority. A corporal, on the other hand, wears 2 chevrons and is an NCO. They're leading teams, making decisions, and have actual command responsibility. Same paycheck, different job description. It's like being a line cook versus being the shift manager. You're both in the kitchen, but one of you is yelling at people. And here's a fun fact. If you enlist with a 4-year college degree, you can skip the whole private situation entirely and come in as a specialist. That's right, your underwater basket weaving degree finally pays off. Next up, Sergeant E5. Now we're in NCO territory. Sergeants wear 3 chevrons, and this is where real leadership begins. They're team leaders, they're trainers, they're the ones making sure things actually get done. The word sergeant actually comes from servant, which is hilariously ironic because now they're the ones being served. These are the folks who have been around long enough to know what's going on, but not so long that they've completely lost their minds yet. Staff Sergeant E6. 3 chevrons with 1 rocker. Staff sergeants lead squads or sections and are experienced NCOs. They've seen some stuff, they know some stuff, and they're probably tired of explaining stuff to new privates. By this point, they've mastered the art of the 1,000-yard stare and can make a private cry with just a disappointed look. Sergeant First Class E7. 3 chevrons, 2 rockers. These are your platoon sergeants, the senior NCOs at the company level. SFCs are the ones who have been doing this a while and have the stress-induced gray hair to prove it. They're simultaneously beloved and feared, which is exactly the sweet spot for military leadership. Master Sergeant and First Sergeant E8. Both wear 3 chevrons and 3 rockers, but here's the difference. First sergeants have a diamond in the middle. That diamond means they're the senior enlisted leader of a company. They're basically the enlisted mafia boss of their unit. Master sergeants are senior staff, NCOs, and technical experts. First sergeants, they run the whole enlisted show at the company level. They're the commander's right hand, and they know where all the bodies are buried. Metaphorically speaking, of course. I mean, at least mostly. Sergeant Major and Command Sergeant Major E9. 3 chevrons, 3 rockers, and a star. These are the most senior enlisted ranks. Sergeant Majors are staff advisors at battalion level or higher. Command Sergeant Majors are the senior enlisted advisors to unit commanders. They've been in the Army longer than some privates have been alive, and they've forgotten more about military life than most people will ever know. And then there's the Sergeant Major of the Army, and there's only one of these at any given time. This person serves as the senior enlisted advisor to the Chief of Staff of the Army, who's a 4-star general. This is the voice of every enlisted soldier in the entire Army. The SMA has a special insignia with extra stars and basically all the swagger. If you meet the Sergeant Major of the Army, you're meeting enlisted royalty. Now, let's talk about the weird middle children of the Army rank structure, the warrant officers. Warrant officers are like the Army's specialist ninjas. They're technical experts who decided that becoming a commissioned officer sounded like too much paperwork and too many meetings. They're former enlisted folks who wanted to stay focused on their technical specialty rather than deal with all that officer nonsense. They're unique, not quite enlisted, not quite commissioned officers. They're in their own special category like the platypus of military ranks. All warrant officer insignia are based on bars with black squares. It's like someone decided bars were cool but wanted to make them edgier. Warrant Officer 1, W1. Silver bar with 1 black square in the middle. WO1s are appointed by the Secretary of the Army. Hey, fancy. And they're technical and tactical experts. You address them as either Mr. or Miss or Chief. They're officially appointed by warrant, which sounds way cooler than it actually is. It's basically a fancy certificate. Chief Warrant Officer 2 through 5, W2 to W5. As you go up, you just add more black squares to the bar. 2 squares for CW2, 3 for CW3, 4 for CW4, and then CW5 goes back to a different design because the Army apparently got bored. These folks are increasingly senior technical experts, and by the time you hit CW5, you're basically a wizard in your field. They provide essential technical expertise and advice to commanders, and they've seen it all. Here's what's cool about warrant officers. They can and do command detachments and detachments. They're adaptive technical experts, combat leaders, trainers, and advisors all rolled into one. They're basically the Swiss Army knives of military personnel. I'm not sure why we don't have American Army knives, but Swiss Army knives are cool too. Now, let's get to the folks who went to college specifically to tell everyone else what to do. The commissioned officers. Officers are the managers, the planners, the decision makers. They went to college, got their degrees, got commissioned by the President of the United States. Yes, seriously, and now they are in charge. The insignia for officers is completely different from enlisted ranks. No more chevrons. We're talking bars, oak leaves, eagles, and stars. Second Lieutenant 01, the entry-level officer rank, wearing 1 gold bar. Second lieutenants, or butter bars as they're affectionately called because of the gold insignia, typically lead platoon-sized elements of 16 to 44 soldiers. They're fresh out of college or officer training. They're full of ideas and probably about to learn some hard lessons from their platoon sergeant, who's been in the Army longer than the lieutenant has been alive. It's a humbling experience. First Lieutenant 02, 1 silver bar. Now here's where things get weird, and you need to pay attention because this trips up everyone. In the military, silver outranks gold. I know, it makes no sense at all. Gold is more valuable than silver in literally every other context on Earth, but in the military, we're gonna flip the script. This happened because of historical heraldry traditions where generals already wore silver stars, so colonels got silver eagles, and it just cascaded down from there. It's backwards and confusing, and that's exactly how the military likes it. First lieutenants are seasoned LTs with 18 to 24 months of service. They lead specialized weapons platoons and often serve as executive officers of company-sized units. Captain 03, 2 silver bars side by side. Captains command company-sized units of 60 to 200 soldiers. They're the company commanders, the ones actually running the show at that level. By this point, they've figured out how the Army works, they've made some mistakes, they've learned from them, and now they're competent leaders. Probably, hopefully. We trust that they are. Now we move into field grade officers, the big kids. Major 04. Gold oak leaf. Why oak leaves? Nobody really knows for sure, but they've been used since the 1830s, so at this point it's a tradition. Majors serve as primary staff officers for brigades and task forces. They're dealing with personnel, logistics, and operational missions. They're in the weeds of military planning. Lieutenant Colonel 05. Silver oak leaf. Remember, silver outranks gold. Lieutenant colonels typically command battalion-sized units of 300 to 1,000 soldiers. This is a big deal. They're also found in senior staff roles helping develop policies and managing resources. By this point in their career, they've probably developed a taste for really good coffee and a deep appreciation for ibuprofen. Colonel 06. Silver Eagle. This insignia is a stylized version of the eagle from the Great Seal of the United States, clutching olive branches and arrows. Very patriotic, very American, and also very, I'm in charge of several thousand people. Colonels typically command brigade-sized units of 3,000 to 5,000 soldiers. They're also the chief of divisional level staff agencies. This is a senior command rank, and you don't get here without being seriously squared away. They've usually attended the Army War College and have specialized postgraduate training. And now, the general officers, the stratosphere of Army ranks. Brigadier General 07, 1 Silver Star. Brigadier generals are usually deputy division commanders or senior staff officers. They're leading thousands of soldiers and operating at a strategic level. 1 star might not sound like much, but trust me, it's a really big deal. Major General 08, 2 Silver Stars. Major generals typically command divisions leading 10,000 to 15,000 soldiers. That's a small city's worth of people. They're responsible for major operations and have enormous responsibility. Lieutenant General 09, 3 Silver Stars. Lieutenant generals command corps level units or serve as deputy commanders of Army-wide commands. They hold senior staff positions at the Department of the Army or Joint Chiefs of Staff. We're talking serious power here. General 010, 4 Silver Stars. This is it, the top of the mountain. Generals serve as chiefs of major Army commands. 1 general at a time holds the position of Chief of Staff of the Army, the highest ranking officer in the entire service. These folks oversee large-scale strategy, resource management, and inter-service coordination at national and international levels. They have more responsibility than most people can even comprehend. General of the Army 011. 5 Silver Stars arranged in a circle. Now here's the thing. This rank is currently retired and only used during wartime. It was created in 1944 to allow U.S. officers to command Allied officers from other countries who were technically of higher rank. Only 5 men have ever held this rank: Dwight D. Eisenhower, Douglas MacArthur, George C. Marshall, Henry Hap Arnold, and Omar Bradley. The rank was retired in 1981 when Bradley died. And here's a fun fact. George Washington was posthumously promoted to an even higher rank in 1976, 6-star General of the Armies, to ensure he would forever outrank every American military officer because it's America. So, let me hit you up with a question. Have you ever confused ranks or called someone by the wrong rank? Drop your embarrassing military rank mishap story in the comments. Now, let me quick share some random facts with you that'll make you the life of the party. The orientation of the chevrons has changed multiple times throughout U.S. Army history. They've been point up, point down, point up again. It's like the Army couldn't make up its mind. They finally settled on point up in 1902, and thank goodness, because that was getting ridiculous. All Army dogs are non-commissioned officers. Yes, seriously. Every working dog in the Army outranks their handler to prevent mistreatment. So if you're a private working with a military dog, congratulations. Your furry partner outranks you. The word lieutenant literally means holding in place from the French. They're the ones holding position in absence of higher authority. Colonel has that weird pronunciation because it comes from the Italian word colonnello, meaning column of soldiers, but English speakers messed up the pronunciation over time, and here we are. During the 1950s, the Army had specialist ranks going all the way up to E9, Specialist 9, and they wore this wild insignia nicknamed bird umbrellas because it was the eagle symbol with 3 curved gold bars over it. Between 1942 and 1948, the Army had technician grades for enlisted officers with technical skills but no command authority. They wore the same chevrons as NCOs, but with a little T underneath. It was like specialist, but with more steps. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Less than 28% of Americans between 17 and 23 are even qualified for military service. That's barely 1 in 4. So if you made it in, you're already ahead of the curve. Now, before you go, here's another question for you. Which Army rank do you think has the coolest insignia? Are you Team Eagle or Team Stars? Are you one of the contrarians who thinks a single chevron is where it's at? Look, at the end of the day, Army ranks exist for a reason. They establish a clear chain of command, they designate who's responsible for what, and they help organize over 1 million people into an effective fighting force. From the brand new private with 0 insignia to the 4-star general commanding hundreds of thousands of troops, every rank has its place and its purpose. So, whether you're a contractor working on a military base trying to figure out who's who, a family member wanting to understand your loved one's career progression, or you're just a curious civilian like me who wants to know what all those shapes and symbols mean, now you have the knowledge. You can walk onto an Army installation and know exactly who you're talking to just by looking at their uniform. No more awkward moments, no more confusion. You're now fluent in Army rank insignia. No, probably not, actually. And remember, when in doubt, just call everyone either sir or ma'am. It's going to save your butt most of the time.